Hi, this is John D'Acquisto for another round of According to Fastball John with my co-host Dave Jordon. We'll be talking about specific topics today, one including jet lag on players and how it affects their performance when they're going coast to coast or on these long road trips, and how they try to cope with this type of jet lag to help their performance increase. It's a real touchy subject. It's been coming up a lot, and we're hearing about it more and more every day. The second topic we'll talk about today is also going to be the National League West, one of the most potent and powerful divisions in baseball, with the Los Angeles Dodgers, the San Francisco Giants, the Colorado Rockies, and the Arizona Diamondbacks. It looks like a pretty tough race, with leaving our lovely Arizona Diamondbacks maybe falling short this year, possibly in third place at best. So with that, welcome to another round of According to Fastball John with Dave Jordon and John D'Acquisto. How you doing, David?
Hey, Johnny, how are you? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you, my friend.
Thanks.
So we're going to be talking about our basic jet lag that you and I know. You and I know when we travel how it affects us. How do you think it affects a ball player?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. There was a lot of talk of that in the blogosphere, as well as the over the broadcast airwaves and in print. George Dvorsky penned an interesting piece for Deadspin on Monday, exploring a study published this week in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. The Northwestern University sleep scientist Ravi Alata and his colleagues looked at over 46,000 MLB games between 1992 and 2011, and they found a little less than 5,000 instances of teams playing with at least 2 hours of jet lag. And they discovered that the winning percentages of MLB teams suffered when athletes had to travel eastwards, but those effects were very limited when traveling back west. The reason that they said was it has to do with the 24-hour circadian rhythm and the difficulties of adjusting to a shortened day. I mean, kind of historically, what's been your feel with that? When we would travel from San Francisco to New York, which was our biggest road trip, we would always start off either in New York or back in Philadelphia. It was all East Coast. It was 3-hour time difference at the time. They would sit us all up in first class, the starting 9 for that game coming up on the next day, so we could get some sleep. And you know how difficult it is to sleep on planes and everything. And half the time when we'd get in, it'd be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But to us, it's really 12 o'clock, midnight. And so we're all messed up because coming around, it's usually a day game, or if it's a day game or a night game, we'd have some time to sleep in, but then you feel all sluggish and, your head's all foggy, your schedule's all messed up, and, you just can't get a good grasp of what you got to do, and your mind's not there. It's not focused. And, you try to get as much rest as possible, but to no avail. It just never really, never, helped. You'd always, I did well because I was strong and everything, but as a starter, it was really tough on all the players, especially all the position players, Oh, especially when there's fun in the back of the plane and theoretically you're supposed to be getting some sleep, but there's a good card game going on back there and you're hearing Gary Matthews and Darryl Thomas having a blast. Kind of want to take part at least. Oh, let's go back for 10 minutes and then.
Yeah, did I ever sleep going from San Francisco to New York? The answer is no, and it never did. Never did anybody else because we were all sitting in the back playing cards. You're absolutely right. They had some of the best poker games because we just got a whole bunch of meal money for a 17-day road trip, and we were going to have fun.
Oh Lord, that sounds like I'm so jealous.
Oh, I know.
Alata goes on to talk about how jet lag-induced home runs resulted in increases between 0.1 and 0.2 runs per game. Doesn't sound like a whole lot of much, but
but on the average it is.
Schedule,
Yeah, it really is. It's a big difference. You know, the increases in home runs per game, according to the Deadspin piece, it was .107 for home teams and .073 for the away teams, and it accounted for the majority of the extra runs allowed. Now, you weren't really a home run guy. You didn't give up a ton of dingers. But
no, I think I gave up
sure.
like 6.6 was my average. So, per 9 innings, I didn't give up many at all.
But for the most part, it's still a hurt kind of situation, and it doesn't feel as bad, I guess. And you can tell me from going back from New York back to the left coast.
No, it didn't, because you picked up those 3 hours, and then you were all charged up and ready to go. But I'd seen teams that would come off of a long road trip. Say they would go, like the Giants, particularly. The Giants would come from New York. They would fly all the way back to San Francisco. They would play a couple of games, and then they would come down into Arizona. And just that road trip alone, and them being on the road that long, it did have an effect on them. You could see they were totally flat. And you can notice right away just the way the guys are walking out on the field and how they're kind of dragging their bats on the ground, and they're just very, very sluggish. And then you see the other teams that are coming from East Coast to West Coast, like Cleveland or the Yankees or the Mets or whomever would come in and they would play, and they would be like, it was like lights out, home runs everywhere, especially at Chase. You could hit home runs in Chase. It's like playing in Colorado, for crying out loud. So,
right.
It's like, the jet stream's open, have at it. And you could really see the difference. And I tend to agree with this study that, it really does have, an effect on the players, i.e., that's why there is that Monday off day, that Thursday off day, to give the guys a little chance to gather up again. But still, you still feel it a little bit on that first game that you're playing. You feel still a little sluggish. Hotel room, food's different. You're not eating at home. You don't have your family with you. It goes on and on and on. All that takes its toll. And that's why the perspective is, if you can play 750 at home and play 500 on the road, you'll win 103 games, just like Joe Madden and the Cubbies did last year.
Yeah, and unfortunately the Dodgers didn't do that. They played under 500 on the road. I mean, granted, only 5 games, but they still played to a 38-43 clip. Looking at them right now, they made that acquisition. They picked up Logan Forsythe. There was a talk of trying to get Dozier in the mix, but that was going to be too high of a price. The Dodgers, they locked up Kenley Jansen. They locked up Justin Turner. They're looking to fortify the bullpen, which seems to be a heck of a narrative throughout the whole league right now. Trying to get that second or third bullpen arm. Joe Blanton and Craig Breslow and even Jerry Blevins are still out there. As a Mets fan, I was thinking Blevins would return to Flushing, but Sandy Alderson's a bit reluctant to hand over a 2-year deal.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at the Dodgers though. They look like their lineup is set now, and they're ready to head down to spring training.
Yeah.
What you see any kinks in the armor at this point?
Well, I don't see Yasiel Puig in the picture at all. This is one thing that's been baffling to a lot of people. And you don't hear his name. You don't hear that he's around. They're not pumping him. He's been awful quiet during the winter. He hasn't gotten in any trouble. It's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to off him? Are you trying to talk to him, get him to grow up a little bit? This is a major talent. This kid's got talent. But he has to grow into his talent. He has to grow up. And if he grows up and he quits being the arrogant SOB that he is, then maybe he'll be able to come out and play the game like the true all-star that he is. And if that goes into the mix, then the Dodgers are going to look extremely tough. Extremely tough. Because they've got one of the most solid outfields in all of baseball.
Right. And you look at Puig right now, and you see that, he may have some personal issues and just the adjustments to I mean, it takes a couple of years to adjust to living in the United States. But the fact is, are many of these problems caused by the fact that, he's having difficulties with the off-speed stuff?
Yes, definitely. The pitchers found him out early. It's like when he was mashing the ball everywhere, everyone was trying to throw him hard stuff and a lot of fastballs. Well, he proved that wrong really fast. I've never seen so many balls hit so hard when he came in. And they would try to do it at the end of the game when he's in a crucial spot. It's like, hello, what are you thinking about? I know you love your fastball, but you better throw this guy something else, because I've seen him turn around Aroldis Chapman's fastball. So when you look at that and you say he's turning around 105-mile-an-hour fastball, I would opt to go to my secondary pitch and put a wrinkle on the ball, just to show him something different. But guys don't think that way. They want to live and die by the sword, and some of them do quite often. That's the problem. But
Dodgers will be starting off the season 10 games on the road. San Diego for 4, close to home, then to Colorado, and then to Chicago. It should be kind of a heated series.
I see the whole National League West, now that we're getting into that topic now, I see the whole National League West, David, being one of the toughest. I think they're just going to beat up on each other. I really do. And then at the end, see who gets spit out at the end. Because you got Colorado improved. You got D-backs improved a little bit, but they kind of kept their core of what they had. I don't see really anything going on there too much. And then you got the Dodgers who improved. They found what they needed. They kept Turner. I mean, these are things that are important to a team's nucleus. I don't know. What do you see?
Here's what I see is you look at Colorado and how they played versus the West. They've won 9 games against Arizona. They lost 10. They won 10 versus San Diego. They lost 9. The Giants had their number. They were 6-13 versus San Francisco. And the Dodgers also seem to have a hold on them too. They went 7-12. But you also look at something like San Diego. San Diego was 9-10 against the D-backs. They were 8-11 versus Giants. They're 8-11 versus LA, and they were 9-10 versus Colorado. It doesn't sound like anybody, with the exception of 2 or 3, select situations, is blowing anybody else out of the water.
That's what we were seeing last year. It was like, okay, who's going to step up and start running away with the division? It was 500 baseball. Everyone was beating up on each other. Are we going to see the same thing this year? We might. We might. But the Giants improved. The Giants improved by getting Malakon. When they got Malakon, that's where they were hurting a lot last year, was that in the close. They could get it all the way to the 8th inning, but see, when they got Malakon, that freed up Sergio Romo to go back into the 8th position, and then with that happening, that gives you 2 bona fide pitchers that could hold you off for those 2 innings and close the game out. And Malakon's a proven closer. So, I don't know. The Giants are tough. They know how to win. That Bochy's a magician, in my opinion. He's one of the best managers out there. But if you better get a lot of beer and a lot of popcorn and sit there, because you're going to have a 4.5-5 hour game with Bochy out there. He's going to make changes every batter, every pitcher. I mean, but he'll find a way to beat you. If he has to do it, that's what he does. You
want to know something that's going to make you think that things are. Well, it's going to turn your head is the fact that Buster Posey is 29 years old now. I remember it seemed like yesterday that he was just a young pup, and they brought in Nick Hundley to give him a little space. But you look at his numbers. His numbers came in from 2 years ago. He only batted less than 290. He got on base at a 360 clip. It's lower than it's good, but it's not otherworldly. If you're going to give him some time at first base, you're taking Brandon Belt out of the lineup. He almost got on base 40% of the time. And he's starting to blossom a little bit. Are we looking at Buster Posey as the next Joe Marr? And when I say that, as a catcher who declines around his age 30 season?
Yeah, I see it because also the injury that occurred to him early in his career. All right, that set him back. After what was it, 3-4 years after his career, and he gets in a collision and tears his leg almost off.
Yeah.
That set him back, and that all that squatting down and getting up and squatting down, that leg has to feel it. You have to feel that pain. And Buster can play first base. You know, what do? You give up the bat. He's part of your offense. His defense is okay. His arm's okay. But they went out and got somebody. That tells you right there. And they went out and got Cumberland. And you put him behind the plate to spell Posey, and you know, you're looking at a pretty good defensive catcher right there.
Yeah, and does that mean that we start to see a little Brandon Belt in left field and Span and Pagan try to figure out center?
I think Brandon Belt's going to spell Hunter Pence. If Hunter Pence needs some time breaking away, I think you might see Hunter Pence maybe move into left, or maybe Brandon Belt move into left, or, you know, that's where Belt's going to go out there and play, maybe left field, maybe a little right to spell, but they're going to move some guys around. And you got Williamson out there too, you know, so, you know, there's a lot of things that you can look at, you know, comparatively that the Giants can do. They've got a little more momentum on their side to where they can move around. Their bullpen's pretty tough now. So we'll see what happens. Offensively, they can't hit a home run to save their life. Brandon Bell only hit 15 last year, you know, and Posey was down on his numbers in home runs. If they improve with their home runs this year, they might have a chance of doing really well against the Dodgers, because starting on the road is not fun, and the Dodgers have it really tough coming into this season, being on the road for their first 12 games is what you said? 12 games?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and then you look at the D-backs, well, you know, and coming back to that schedule, they start off with the San Francisco Giants on the first game of the season, and that's on Sunday. They got an off day on Monday, and then they come back and play the Giants for 3. That's 4 games in Arizona. Then they got the Cleveland Indians coming into town. And then you look at that and you say, oh, my God. Oh, okay. Good luck.
Arizona is going to see Kershaw twice, Baumgartner once, Cueto once, Corey Kluber once in April.
Yeah, thank you. There's 3 games. See you later. You know, it's like, why don't we just dump on these guys? Okay? Then they go up to San Francisco. They're going to see Baumgartner again. And they're going to see Cueto again. Okay, so that's 4 times in 2 weeks, you know, and then they got an off day, and they go where? L.A.
And then they got Kershaw coming in right after that, eating some of their home cooking.
Exactly. He's back home again, and then you're going into San Diego, which is opening day, and they're going to be pumped. They always come out of the chute real good, you know, when it's opening day, and then you got him coming back home to Arizona feeling a little bit better on a West Coast swing, and they got to play L.A. again for 3, and then they're playing the Padres for 4. And Padres play well against the D-backs at home. And then, icing on the cake, you got Colorado coming in to town. It's like, okay. Then after that, you're hitting into May. You get this. You got the Nationals coming in for 3. Then the Colorado Rockies again for 3. Then you come back and you got the Detroit Tigers coming in. Then the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then the illustrious Mets. You might be 0-45 by the time you start your season.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Well, they're going to have to do what they can. Zach Greinke's going to have to do what he can to you know, kind of.
Zach will win his game.
Zach will win his game. What's he going to look like this year?
Zach is going to be Zach. Zach is always going to be Zach. It all depends on what type of spring he had, how fast he can get out of the chute, David. And I'll tell you what, I really like Zach Greinke. Yeah, mechanic-wise, you know, mentally as a pitcher, he's very, very good. He's got a good selection of pitches. He throws strikes. He works fast. His team plays well behind him. And, you know, you know that Lovello is going to put his best squad out there on the field when Zach Greinke pitches. Okay, the question mark is, and it's a good question mark, but Robbie Ray and Patrick Corbin are sitting there in the 2-3 slots. And then you got Archie Bradley, who you like, and I like too, but hasn't done well since he took that line drive off his face. So,
right.
Those are big question marks there. And Patrick Corbin had a real off year last year, but did really well coming out of the bullpen. Now, their decision, are they going to leave him in the bullpen, or are they going to make him a starter again? Patrick Corbin's a bona fide starter, a 14-game winner the year before that. So
right.
There's a lot of things. And then you got Shelby Miller, who's coming off a really poor year. Is he going to rebound and come back and pitch well? So
right.
So you got some things to look at, and it's all related to the pitching staff. And that's where the problems were last year, and that's where the problems are going to be this year, in my opinion.
Well, Stuff, you look at Greinke, he had a 6 ERA in the second half. He went his home away split, he had an ERA close to 5 at home. I wonder if that's related to the pressure of that enormous contract.
Actually, no. It was related to the fact that he's pitching in a ballpark very similar to Colorado. In fact, the ball jumps. He gave up a lot of home runs and a lot of extra base hits. And in the D-backs ballpark, you're going to see that happen. We're the second highest above sea level ballpark in baseball. Next to Colorado. So when you look at that and you say, well, I work at this ballpark. I've seen balls jump that are unbelievable. I've seen them go off the center field wall, going up into the wall, ricocheting off and coming back into center field with authority. I just, a lot of those home runs and runs that Zach gave up had nothing to do with I don't think that kid knows what pressure's all about. He just goes out and pitches. He's a machine. All right, but when it comes down to it, Zach Greinke is going to win his games, and he's going to be good for about 15 to 16 games. And if he gets hot, and I've seen him get hot, and he got hot last year before he got hurt, he won like 7 or 8 in a row.
Right.
He's a fine pitcher. He's a fine pitcher.
You do make a good point about the home runs and the ball flying out of there. His home run per 9 innings is the second highest of his career.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's not Chavez Ravine he's pitching in anymore. So.
No, and remember, all the West Coast ball clubs from Seattle all the way down to San Francisco to L.A. to Anaheim into San Diego, and Oakland also. All of those clubs are all on the coast, and it's a heavy air atmosphere. They're all on the coast with the sea air, and the home runs, and they're big ballparks, so they don't give up many home runs. But then you come in to good old Arizona with the high altitude and the roof open and the panels open, jet stream. Balls jump. I've seen Punch and Judy's hit home runs. And it's just the way it is. It's not going to change, David. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
You have to make the adjustments here in Arizona, and a lot of these kids on the Arizona pitching staff don't throw enough sinker balls to keep the ball down and keep the ball down on the ground. They're falling in love with their fastballs and everything. That's one of their problems. So we'll see what happens.
Well, speaking of the thin air, what's Greg Holland going to do in Colorado? He's got $6 million for the year. Spent the last year on the DL. How's that going to play out?
Oh, it's going to play out negatory. In my opinion, I hope he bounces back. I like the kid. I think he's a good athlete. But David, when you look at it, why are you going to play Colorado? It's like, could you have thought about playing someplace else? But then again, maybe he's got a good sinker ball now. Maybe he's got a good off-speed pitch, keeps the guys off balance. And Colorado seems to be doing some things, with the humidifiers to make the balls a little heavier and create their own artificial type heavy air ballpark. It ain't happening. I don't care how much humidity you got in a baseball. It's not happening, especially if baseball opts to use the new baseball this year. Who knows? Okay?
Yeah.
Because those balls are sealed up in cellophane wrappers, and they're untouchable till game time. So,
right.
You look at that. I don't know. As a pitcher, I wouldn't have gone to Colorado, but $6 million is $6 million, I guess, huh? Yeah,
it certainly is. And here in the New York area, we're always hearing rumors about Carlos Gonzalez and whether the Mets should make an attempt to bring him into the fold. Is he a creature of that town? Is he a creature of that ballpark? Because his splits don't look amazing when Denver.
Yeah, I'm gonna say if he leaves Denver and he gets on a team and he hits the rotational spots where he has a chance to win. A lot of times you can hit a rotation spot and they're putting in the second team. You know what I mean? Like a Saturday or a Sunday getaway game or whatever.
Yep.
And it makes it tough to win. And a lot of people don't realize that. You look at the stack that they're running out there, and it's not the first squad. And
right.
If Carlos Gonzalez, he's a really good pitcher. If the Mets go after him, that could be a real good choice. It could weaken the Colorado Rockies if that happens.
Well, he's hitting. He hit last year 320.
Yes.
Cargo. He hit 320 in Colorado. Away he hit 276, and his on base percentage was off by like a half, 50 basis points once he gets out of Denver. So it's just I've never been a big fan of his, and he's somebody that I definitely. Much like the Jay Bruce trade, I'm big on ballpark.
Yeah.
I was not a big fan of the Jay Bruce trade, and seeing him, obviously hitting in the Great American Ballpark, it's not Citi Field, and very few people not named Yoenis Cespedes can hit great home runs at Citi Field. So.
Yeah, and I think Carlos Gonzalez is in that mold where he just does well in Colorado, and because his ball, when he hits the ball, he hits it hard. But it's like you can miss in Colorado and get away with it. You can't do that anyplace else where there's heavy air. And most of the parks that they play in are heavy air. But he's a good player. He's a good player. I just don't know if that's where I would go. I would look someplace else. There's plenty of other talent out there that you can get that'll help your ball club.
I agree. Now going to speaking of some free agent contracts. Padres locked up Will Myers. How much of an impact is that going to do for them? I mean, is it a good deal for the ball club? He's only they signed him 6 years, $83 million. He's only 25. He seemed to love hitting in Petco. Batted .306 in San Diego. Only .210 on the road last year. Suffered a pretty dismal second half. Batted only .226 with an OBP on under 300.
Right.
Do you think that's a good deal for them to lock him up? Is he going to get better?
He may get better. But how many of those home runs that he hit were at home?
He seemed to really enjoy hitting there. I mean, it was a decent split. It wasn't, Petco Park is what it is, and he seemed to have a
But
good,
the ball does jump out
there.
of left field. It does jump out of left field, and
right.
a lot of the people don't realize it. But that's actually a good spot to be if you're a right-handed hitter. It's a short porch. Porch. But
well, that's good then.
Will Myers found a home, not in the outfield. He found it at first base. So longevity-wise, Will Myers is going to last a long time. Plus, he's going to be like a Paul Goldschmidt, not maybe in the RBI production. He might be. I don't know. He might be. He might get a lot more fastballs to hit. But he's going to be like a Paul Goldschmidt in the stolen base category, where he's got speed. And getting him on base, he's a potential threat to steal a bag or two, and plus he runs the bases rather well, and that's a big positive for him. We'll see how the money affects him. But usually when you get $83 million to play for 6 years, you kind of let up a little bit. So we'll see how that affects him and how much he'll go out and what kind of intensity he has when he goes out to play ball. Well,
here's another guy who didn't get 683, but he did get a 1-year contract with Trevor Cahill. His numbers coming out of the pen with the Cubs are pretty solid. K rate close to 10, ground ball rate of 57%, which is pretty good. It would be great in Petco. Only gave up 7 home runs in 65 innings for the Cubbies, and that number should go down in San Diego. And they're actually looking for him not so much in middle middle reliever, but perhaps a mid-rotation starter. Does he have a shot to make that deal? I mean, they signed him for one year, $1.75 million. If he can be a starter and give them 185 innings, that could be a steal.
Well, he's capable. But his one problem that he's had when he was here in Arizona, when I saw him for 2 years, was he couldn't close the deal. He couldn't get that. He'd get out number one, out number two, and then he'd have problems with out number three. It kind of let up. But going to Chicago, he kind of improved on that a little bit by going in the bullpen. The other thing is he's in front of his hometown. He's from Oceanside, California.
Right.
And as I know, as being a player that played in front of his hometown, I had some of my best years playing in front of my hometown fans and friends and family because of the fact that I wanted to do well. So I made sure I was a little more up to the offer to go out and play. And you know, it's a little bit different, you know, when you're back home again. I don't know, some guys react differently. Some guys don't like to play in front of their hometown fans, but I think Trevor Cahill's probably one of those guys. We might see something good out of him. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Well, we're coming up on it, so let's kind of recap. Who, if you had to rank the teams, what are you thinking this year? And who's going to come out on top?
I have got to say, being an ex-Giant, okay, I love my Giants, okay, and I got to go Giants, Dodgers. I got to say that with authority. It's going to be 1-2 either way. You're going to see probably. I got to look at Colorado being a close third.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say San Diego probably fourth, and Arizona is going to be in the cellar.
Got it.
That's my call. And you know what, David? I don't think that's an off limit call at all. I think it's a call it's a realistic call. And after I've seen, what the teams have done, and you look at the WARP for the D-backs, it's 14.
Yep.
They're 12th. Okay, and you look at their team average, it's 275. That's pretty good, but that's 10th.
Yeah. And
then you look at their FRA, they're negative 18.9, and that's 15th. So they're right in the middle. And I don't know. The biggest change probably in that whole organization was in the front office, not on the field.
Yeah, they may definitely be a work in progress. Even ESPN Keith Law says they have the worst farm system in the major leagues. It's going to take some work there.
Yeah, I think so. So with that at hand, who are you picking? You
know what? I'm gonna have to say the Dodgers are gonna make it again. I think that eventually that their rotation is gonna really overcome what the Giants have. And Baumgartner can't pitch every game, and I think you're gonna see a guy like Justin Turner, who's finally got his first real contract. He's gonna feel settled. And I remember him from New York and the Mets circles. He was always very eager to impress the fans, and I think he's still going to want to give them their money's worth. Puig, I don't know if he's going to have the breakout season. I don't know if he can fix what's broken. So but that said, I think the Dodgers it's going to be a dogfight. There's going to be some amazing games between San Fran and LA, and it's going to be a heck of a rivalry. I think the Dodgers pull it out. I think they overcome the Cubs in the playoffs, or the Mets for that matter. And the funny thing is the Mets seemed to have the Cubs number last year, and they did quite well against LA as well. So I think you're going to see the Dodgers just sneak ahead of San Fran.
Yeah, I do too. But I also think San Fran will probably get a wild card along the way. They always do. They always find a way to get in somehow.
So she finds a way to win. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, my friend. Well, that's another evening of According to Fastball John with Dave Jordon and John D'Acquisto. Thanks for listening to our show, and we'll see you next week. Take care, and remember, spring training's around the corner. Be ready and have fun. Good night, all.